I've just switched on the recording, but so once again, welcome to people who are available on this call and welcome to the people who could not make it. So just to spend around 15 seconds, I'm going to hand it over to you people. If you can just quickly share your name and where you're from and which batch you attended. So quickly, let's start 15 seconds from each one of you, and then we'll move on.
Hi, I'm Anita Vasudeva. I'm from New Delhi. And hi, Gaurav. Batch of March 2017. Very actively coaching.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barsha Chittis from Mumbai. Batches 2016 and 17. And yes, I'm an active coach.
Welcome.
Hello, Dr. Rakesh this side. How are you, Gaurav?
Doing very well, sir. Thank you.
I did my module 1 in June this year. And it's been a very exciting start and kickoff for me. Just about less than a month, we are practicing coaching with our colleagues. And so I'm looking forward to actively coaching in future. Thank you very much, Gaurav.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anita Madhok, and I'm the first batch from Erickson through Inspire Coaching Systems. I don't remember, I think it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken, Gaurav.
And that was 2013 or 14.
Yeah, okay. So that was a long time ago, but I did my third and fourth module only this January. So I'm as new as this and as old as that.
Yeah.
I'm an active coach. I've done a good amount of coaching now.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Anita, for joining. And just to share with all of you, Anita was the first ACC from Erickson that we produced in collaboration with Inspire and Erickson. So thank you so much, Anita, for joining. And soon she would be a PCC.
Keep fingers crossed.
Yeah. All right. Next, please.
Neetu. Hi, I'm Neetu Singh, and I just started my coaching journey on 21st June this year. Looking forward to next module this month.
Thank you, Neetu. Thank you, Neetu. Yeah.
Hey, this is Gulpreet, everyone. Good morning. Hey, Gaurav. The batch of June 2018. Still to complete the entire.
Yes. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Kalpana Arora, June 2018 batch. Just a beginner right now.
Yeah, that reminded me of Gaurav Arora, Tihar Jail, Villa number 746. Thank you for joining in.
Hi, this is Lata, batch 1. Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much, Lata. I didn't know you would be joining, by the way. Just to share with you, Lata is my mentor. So wherever I am, to a large extent, credit goes to her for holding the space and allowing me to become who I have become and who I'm becoming. So thank you so much, Lata, for joining in.
Always a pleasure.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Bond.
007.
And
I've just woken up from the dream.
Sorry. Good morning, Gaurav. My name is Akshay Seth. I am also part of June. Last month we did the module 1. And we're looking forward for the next.
Thank you, Akshay.
And so good to see you, Gaurav. Looking forward to have.
Looking forward, sir. Thank you. Who else would like to go next?
Hi.
Yeah, please go ahead, Sophia.
Yeah. Hi, this is Sophia this side. I'm from Ludhiana and I was in June 2018 batch. And hi, Gaurav. Thank you for inspiring us. And yes, we have been failing better many a times now. But I don't know by when we'll be learning to succeed now. I'm waiting for Leela to speak. She haven't spoken yet.
I can so much relate with you, Sophia. Even I'm feeling better and feeling again.
Hi.
Okay, this window is still open in case you would like to quickly introduce yourself. Please go ahead and introduce.
Hi, this is Sanchita here. I'm from June 2018 batch, and I'm enjoying the learning. Thank you, Erickson. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gaurav, for having me here.
Thank you, Sanchita.
Hi, hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Gaurav. Good morning, everyone. My name is Neerja, and I'm from Jiva Ayurveda Faridabad from the current batch. And I'm totally enjoying my journey of coaching, and I'm kind of discovering myself more first than others. So it's been really pleasure to have a part of this program, Gaurav. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Siddharth, go ahead, my friend.
Hi everyone, I'm Siddharth. March and then November 2017 batch, and I'm clocking my coaching hours to apply for ACC.
Thank you. Hey, I just by listening to Siddharth, it reminded me there are many ACCs on this call, and as I mentioned, Anita is the first ACC from Erickson, and Lata is the first PCC from Erickson. So it's an honor to have both Anita and Lata on this call. So thank you. And if you look at, I know that I'm taking a slot here. I'm just taking their time. But if you look at both Anita and Lata, they are from the first batch of Erickson, and there are not many people who start and complete. So it's not about starting the coaching journey. It's about sustaining that journey as well, and allowing yourself to observe who you are becoming while you are accumulating the coaching hours as well. So that's a great learning for us and great inspiration for all of us having Anita and Lata. So yeah, who else would like to go next? Let's listen from Leela as well. Yeah, Sindhu, please go ahead.
Hi everyone. Hi Gaurav. So good to see you all. Yes. All of your faces. It's been almost a month. I'm from Gurgaon and I attended the June 2018 batch, Module 1. So waiting for Module 2 and waiting to see you all. Thank you for this webinar. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, Malik here from Hyderabad. Hi Gaurav. I think I did my first 2 coaching sessions in 2016, somewhere at the end of 2016, I guess.
Yes.
I'm really excited about this session, and I'm continuing to clock my hours. I have to be on track.
Yes.
Thanks.
Welcome. We have Ajay Divedi as well from, we just got the message here. He's from Home Credit and he attended the last batch in 2017, if my memory supports me. Is it fair to say, Ajay?
Yeah. Hi everyone. This is Ajay, and I think my batch was September 2018, if I'm not wrong.
So September 2018 तो आया भी नहीं sir.
Oh, sorry, September 2017.
Which is okay. Yeah. Welcome. We have Julian as well. Julian, may I request if you can introduce yourself? Julian is one of the finest human beings that I've come across, a thorough gentleman, one of my mentors. Julian, if you may just request, if I may request you to introduce yourself.
Yes, Gaurav, it's so wonderful to see the batches that you've assembled over the years. We've known each other for several years. We've worked together. Unfortunately, I'm one of the 80% that didn't actually continue the journey. But in my case, it was more due to various other responsibilities that I had. And but I still like to associate myself with you. And if anybody else would like advice from a very, very senior citizen, I'm almost 75 years old. So, it's about time that I retired. But I'm not. I'm actually full-time working, just started a new venture. And at some time, I'll tell all of you about that. But all the best, Gaurav. You've done a wonderful, wonderful job. And please continue this journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Julian, it is a pleasure to have you. It's an honor to have you. Just to share with you, Julian is the one who has been instrumental in bringing McDonald's to India. So I'm sure all of you would have enjoyed McDonald's. Your kids, your niece and nephew would have enjoyed. So it's time to say thank you to Julian. If not for Julian, we could not have enjoyed McDonald's.
Oh, no. They would have come in through somebody else. Don't worry.
Who else is there?
Hi, I am Jyoti Parnami from Jaipur, and I joined my journey in June 2018.
Welcome, Jyoti.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Preeti. Good to see you all. Batch July 2016.
Welcome, Preeti.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome and thank you so much for joining in. Bedi Sab?
This is Zeb here. Hi, Gaurav.
Hi, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, very good to see you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Harveen Bedi. I joined the journey in January 2018.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much once again for joining in. I'm assuming most of you would have introduced yourself. Saurav Tiwari, who is available, who is on this call, he has not introduced himself. So Tiwari Sahab, if I may request you to quickly take 10 seconds and introduce yourself.
Sure. Very good morning, everyone. I have already spoken with many of you. I work. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you. For the benefit of the people who don't know Saurav, Saurav has been with us for as long as I've been there in the system. The backbone of Inspire and Erickson. And you already know Preeti heads the coaching vertical for us. And most of you would be chasing her for the ION initiatives. Please continue to chase her because she's the one who's going to unlock the dreams of most of us. I keep on chasing her for the work that I get for ION. So thank you so much once again for joining. Let's dive into the what we are going to talk about today. What we are going to talk about today is definitely one, we are going to talk about the Arrow model. And interestingly, most of the people who are on this call, they have recently gone through the Arrow model. And what we are going to talk about Arrow model is, one is we are going to go through the different phases of Arrow. So whether we are talking about the rapport part or the contracting part or the outcome focused part, outcome frame part or the experience part. And also we are going to talk about how Arrow is a little different from any other coach training model, not to belittle, not to disrespect any other coach training model, just to share with all of us, as we already know, just to reiterate on the fact that what makes Arrow model really deep and transformative. That is one. And then we are going to talk about the competencies that we have, and we are going to play with the basic competencies when we are talking about the setting the foundation. And once that is done, then we are going to have a lot of interactions. And at any point in time, in case you think that you would like to add something, or you may want to share something, you're most welcome, because it's not about a download session. It's more about exploring it together. It's all about sharing your experiences. And that is what the primary objective is. Just to share with you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of us through the Arrow model once again, and I would open the platform for all of you so that you can share about your experience of having gone through what we are talking about. So if you look at the Arrow model, the complete Arrow model is divided into 7 phases. And when I'm talking about 7 phases, I'm talking about establishing rapport. I'm talking about initiating the contract. I'm talking about the outcome frame that we have. We are talking about creating an experience. I'm talking about review the action plan. We talk about the value part and the celebrate the achievement of the client. So first, let me just talk about my initiation to coaching. I think I still owe the highest learning that I've had is through the show that I used to host. And the name of that podcast series that I used to host, it was Coaching Matters. And during that episode, during one of the episode, I got an opportunity to interview Sir John Whitmore. I'm assuming, and I'm very sure that all of us, all of the people who are on this call, we are aware of Sir John Whitmore. For the benefit who are not, just to share, he's known as the father and the founder of coaching worldwide. He has written a book called Coaching for Performance or Performance Coaching. Now, he's the one who gave GROW model to the world. And if you look at the GROW model, G stands for goal, R stands for reality, O stands for options, and W stands for wrap up. Now, if you look at all the four, GROW, now it is possibly, I'm assuming that it is the most used coaching model worldwide. Anyone who's into coaching would be aware of the GROW model. Now, if you look at the GROW model, I've personally extensively used GROW model. And today also, when I do a 2-day program or a 3-day program where we talk about manager as a coach, we do talk about the GROW model. I don't remember any coach training program that I've done or any leadership development work that I've done where I've spoken about coaching. I have not mentioned Sir John Whitmore's name. And few of you would have heard me talking about Sir John Whitmore. When I got an opportunity to interact with Sir John Whitmore, during that interaction, I was very curious to know. I said, Sir John Whitmore, help me understand, what do you mean by coaching and how would you define coaching? And the way he defined coaching, that made a lot of sense, and that actually made it very simple for me. And the more I'm getting into coaching, the more I'm realizing that with every single day, every single passing day, my understanding of coaching, when it's going up, it's getting simpler and simpler in my mind. Every time when I interact with somebody, whether if I'm coaching somebody or I'm explaining the concept of coaching to anyone, it becomes the concept really easy. So when I was during my conversation with Sir John Whitmore said that coaching is a simple process of, it's a process of facilitating a positive and a progressive change from where the person is to where he or she would like to be. The conversation continued, and he said something magical. He said, the way we do the complete process of facilitating the positive and the progressive shift from where the person is to where he would like to be or where she would like to be is by creating awareness so that the other person can take responsibility. Now, in the complete definition the way he defined, there were 3 words that struck with me today as well. One is it's a process. The second one is self-awareness and self-responsibility. So these are the 3 words that actually stood by me and that stayed with me for the longest period of time. And the conversation continued, and I said, Sir John Whitmore, help me understand, in case I would like to be a better coach, what can I do? It's not that I was not doing coaching at that point in time. I was very much involved in coaching as much as I'm involved today. The difference was, when you know that you have the God, the demigod in front of you, you extract as much as you can. And that was my selfish interest, that I wanted to extract straight from the horse's mouth. And again, he said something that stayed with me. Rather, when I said, Sir John, I would like to learn coaching, how can I actually enhance my understanding of coaching? He said, Gaurav, in order to enhance your understanding of coaching, start observing a small child. And I found that really weird. I said, what are you talking about? I'm talking about learning coaching. It's executive coaching I'm talking about. And you are paid dollars and you're paid hundreds and thousands of dollars. And is that what is the suggestion that you're offering to me? I didn't say this to him. However, that's the point that I was dealing with within myself. And I said, what do you mean by that? Observe a small child. He said, just observe a small child and observe with the kind of curiosity that he asks a question. Observe the way he asks a question with the curiosity that he has. That made a lot of sense to me. And I think now, every time when I get stuck, what I do is I go back to the suggestion that I got from the horse's mouth, when he said that have the curiosity of a child and then ask a question. During one such interaction with one of the participants in the batches, the conversation continued, and what really glued with me is the curiosity. Why? Because I personally feel that when I learned coaching, I remember I have one of my mentors, his name is Venugopal, he's based out of Bangalore. And I went to him and I said, Venu, I've learned coaching, now I can coach anyone. He said, so what have you learned about coaching? I said, coaching is all about asking questions. And he said, what you've picked up is the low-hanging fruit. I didn't understand that. I understood what he said, that coaching, asking questions is only one of the low-hanging fruits, when I realized that there are 11 core competencies. And asking question is only one of the competencies. Why I'm talking about this? Because this is where we are getting into the arrow model. Now, I've spoken about the GROW model. GROW model, I perceive it's a phenomenal model. It's the base model for all the coaching models. But when I was exposed to the arrow model, and that is what we are getting into, what I was exposed to the arrow model, what I realized that there is much more depth to the conversation that we can bring in. And one such is when we are going to talk about creating the experience. So let's quickly shift towards what we're going to talk about is your arrow model. Now, in the arrow model, what are the similarities between arrow model and the solution and the GROW model is, of course, we talk about where you are right now. We talk about where you would like to be, which is the goal. We talk about the different options, and we talk about in the terms of creating options, we create an experience here. And if you look at creating an experience, I personally feel that's the strength of the arrow model. And we are going to go deeper into that. And of course, we talk about the action planning. We talk about what is the way forward, what are you willing to do. So talking about rapport model, my understanding is every time when I don't have the rapport in place with the other person, I've realized that the coaching is not going really well. And one such, and every time when I get into an interaction, every time when I get into a group-to-group setting, or when I get into these kind of webinars, I make sure that I spend some time in building rapport. And in today's webinar, if you look at, that's exactly what I did. When I realized that I'm getting some kind of anxiety within myself, looking at so many different faces from so many different batches, because I'm sure you all have certain expectations from Erickson Coaching International. So what I realized that I could actually sense there's a lot of burden on my shoulder. And how am I going to carry that next 90 minutes time? How am I going to make sure that you all get some value from the interactions? And I was getting a little jittery. I was getting a little nervous. First thing I said is, I need to take a deep breath. And what I need to do is I need to go back to the basics that I talk about. And the basics that I talk about is building trust and rapport. Now, one of the things that I did during the session is to focus back on, I was aware of myself that what is happening to me. I'm getting anxious. I'm getting nervous. I'm getting a little jittery. I'm finding there's so much of burden on my shoulder. I said, let me just release that. And I released that, and I started focusing on rapport. The way I worked on rapport right now in this session is opening the floor for all of you. I said, okay, why don't you introduce yourself? Where are you from? The kind of diversity that you're bringing in. And that is what helps us to be one with the other person, right? So let's spend some time on what are the ways that could help us to build rapport as far as the arrow is concerned. We're not going to spend a lot of time on all of them. I'm just going to briefly talk about all of them, and then we'll come to the ICF core competencies. Now, in order to work on rapport, what are the different ways to build on rapport? Few of the ways that I'm aware of is just to know about the other person. Hey, what are you? What are you doing? Who are you? What's your name? Where you come from? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? Just to make sure the other person is very comfortable. He's comfortable in his or her skin, as much as you are getting comfortable in your skin, as much as you are finding space where you can breathe properly. You are allowing the other person to breathe properly for himself or herself. Another thing that we talk about when we talk about building rapport is that the use of softeners. Now, I'm going to take a pause here and a request to people who are not from the current batch, because I'm very sure they've recently learned the softeners, right? Let me just let me just open the floor for people who are from the past batches or who are from the earlier batches. If you can remember, what are the different softeners that we use?
So, Gaurav, we could have things like I'm curious to understand and then take it forward.
Okay, thank you, Siddharth. Who else would like to share? Hey, we have Surabhi as well online.
Good morning, Gaurav. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Who else would like to share more softness? Okay, so let me just talk more about that. So let's talk about softeners. What do they do? So as Siddharth mentioned, one of the softeners is I'm very curious to know, right? Another softener is I'm wondering what is that you're looking forward to. And there are many such softeners that we have already in the book. I'm going to talk about that. But in the meantime, when we're saying that there are softeners that we use, what's the softness and what do they do? Let's try and understand that. The moment you say, I am curious to know, that reminds me of what Sir John Whitmore said, that curiosity, when you're going to ask something from somebody from a space of curiosity, the other person does not doubt it. When you're saying that I'm really wondering, why are you saying what you're saying, and or I'm just wondering what are your intentions about that, or when you're saying correct me if I'm wrong here, or when you're saying I find myself curious, or as you speak to me I find myself wondering, or have you noticed that, it's interesting that, or would you mind telling me? If you look at all these softeners, they come from a space of curiosity and acceptance. And what really happens is when you are saying that I'm curious, I am wondering, or for the purpose of to take the conversation to the next level, or for the purpose of so that we can find some possible next solution in this conversation, or to further take the next step, correct me if I'm wrong, all these words, what they do is they come across very non-threatening to the other person. They come across as if you are very welcoming to the other person. They come across very inviting, where you come across from a space that, look, I'm here. I might not know what you're seeking for. However, what I can possibly provide you here is my space. I can provide you is my presence, so that may allow you to create the solution that you're looking forward to, or to look for the possibilities that you are looking forward to. This is what really happens as far as when the softeners are used. The second way to use to build rapport is what we call as the way you use your voice and tonality. The way you use your voice, the way you use your tonality, the way you use your pitch, the way you use your pacing, the way you mirror and match the other person. Just day before yesterday, I was leading a program on helping leaders to become coaches, and this is what we got into this conversation. And this person said something which is like phenomenal, because we were doing one of the activities, and this gentleman said, Gaurav, another way that actually helped me to make rapport with the other person is the way the other person was sitting, and the way he was listening to me, the way the kind of expression that he has on his forehead, and the way the intensity that I could actually experience from his eyes. What struck to me is that, of course, voice makes a lot of difference. Of course, the tonality makes a lot of difference. The pace at which you are speaking makes a lot of difference. It also makes a lot of difference the way you are sitting. You cannot lean back on a chair with your hand folded at the back of your head and say, hey, I'm just curious to know, what are you looking for? Excuse me, the impression that you're giving is that there is no congruence in what you are speaking and the way you are showing up right now. That's the second one. The third one that we talk about is what we call as paraphrasing and backtracking. Now, as we move on in our journeys, I remember when I started my coaching journey, to when I was struggling to get my 100 coaching hours, to my struggle to get my 750 hours, because in 2012, way back, the way we have it in ICF right now, you can get your PCC in 500 hours. During 2012, when I applied for my PCC, at that point in time, we were supposed to get 750 hours. That was a tough exam. I remember I flunked 2 times before I got my PCC. That was an experience. And that's the reason I often tell people that fail again and fail better. So first time I flunked, the second time I flunked again, and third time I flunked better, and the fourth time I succeeded. And that's how I know the process of achieving something, and it helps. Now, during that time, I remember the feedback that I got for the first time is that, God, if you were listening, but I'm not very sure, how do you make sure that the other person realizes that you were listening to the other person? Now, silence is important. Now, what backtracking does for the other person is that when you backtrack and when you paraphrase, it gives an impression, it's an evidence procedure for the other person to look at that, yes, you have heard me right. It's an evidence procedure for the other person to realize that, yes, you have heard me right. And what we backtrack or what we paraphrase is primarily we play with the keywords. We primarily play with the value words. What do you mean by keywords, or what do you mean by value words? Let me share one of the let me just share one of those experiences with you during one of the coaching sessions. During one of the recently, in fact, last week I was coaching this gentleman. He's a vice president with one of the airlines, and I was coaching him. And I said, what is that you would like to talk about? So the conversation began from a very broad level of conversations. I would like to take care of my health. And the conversation went on. So I said, when you're saying health, what does that mean? And he said, I would like to be fitter. Okay. And for me, fitter means that once you have health and once you have vitality, it works really well for you. And when I got into the conversation, his definition of health is not only being fit. He said that I would like to be fit, I would like to be healthy, and I would like to look smart. I said, what does that mean? So he was very clear. Healthy means that you should be fit and you should look smart. Now, if I would not have backtracked or I would not have clarified, the word smart would not have introduced to me. Why? Because when I was looking at health, I was looking at only vitality part or only the fit part, or I would have, at the max, I would have looked at that health means that your waistline should be what you would expect from yourself, or you reduce that, or you enhance that, whatever your definition of health is. But the moment he said smart, I was very curious. And I said, when you're saying smart, what does that mean? He said, you know what, in our industry, it makes a lot of difference. That made a lot of difference to me. That made a lot of sense to me, because he's from airline industry, and for him, looking smart makes a lot of difference, and which may or may not matter to all the other people. Of course, it should matter or it should not matter. It depends. It's up to the individual. But the point is, the moment I started clarifying, the moment I started backtracking, and the moment I started paraphrasing, it did make a lot of difference to our conversation, and we went further deeper into the conversation. Another way to build rapport is, as I mentioned, clarifying is definitely one of the ways. Another thing that I've recently realized is that taking permission when you get into a conversation, when you interact with somebody, I think taking permission, it makes a lot of difference. Let's try and understand metaphorically, and that's one of the examples that I often share with people. When you enter somebody's house, of course you take permission, and you say, hey, may I come in? It's absolutely fine. You come, you sit, you enjoy a cup of tea, you enjoy a glass of water for yourself or a glass of wine for yourself, and then you realize that you may want to use the washroom, and then say, would it be okay if I can use your washroom? And that's another permission. Now, similarly, in coaching conversations, what really happens is, as you move from one level to another, of course, you play with the tonality part, you play with your voice part. Why it's so important to take permission is because with every single conversation, with every single passing 5 minutes, you're going deeper and deeper and deeper in the conversation. You are opening up new layers for the other person to explore, and could be a possibility that the person might not be comfortable, or he does not want to go in that direction, or she does not want to open the wound that she has always been carrying in her heart for many years, or she's not comfortable looking at making an action plan. So that's where we take permission. Say, would it be okay? You spoke about that. Would it be okay if I can ask you more questions around when you said that's really you're not comfortable to talk about that, if it's okay, may I just ask you to talk more about that? Or if it's okay with you, shall we move on and talk about the action planning? Or if it's okay for you, would you mind talking about the time zones the time frames that you have for yourself, or the milestones that you would like to talk about? And that is where, if you look at the rapport part, it makes a lot of difference. There are different ways to build rapport, as I mentioned: tonality, voice, pitch, taking permission, backtracking, softeners, and all that. Now I'm just going to take a 30 seconds pause in case any one of you have got any question. You're most welcome to ask. And if I don't have an answer, I'll open it for other people to answer that. I'm sure we can get better answers from all of you. So I'm just going to take a pause and open the floor for the questions. You may want to write down in the chat box, or you may want to unmute yourself and share, or you may want to raise your hand and I will unmute you.
Hi, Gaurav.
Akshay, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. My question is because I lost you in between when you were asking a question to John Whitmore about, and he mentioned, I think during that time you said that you observe a child, okay, and you were speaking about curiosity. I missed that part. If you are okay, you can cover it now, or I can get into a conversation later with you.
Okay, so I'll just talk about that in one sentence. So Sir John Whitmore said that I said, in order to learn coaching, what can you do? What can I do? So he said, in order to learn coaching, just observe a small child and look at the curiosity with which he asks questions. Yeah, so what he mentioned, what he wanted to talk about is the curiosity. When you ask a question, be curious to know genuinely from the other person. Thank you. Any other question before we move on? All right, I'm assuming there are no questions. In case you've got any question, please feel free to write in the chat box, and we are definitely going.
No, but there is one that was written on the chat box now. Did you see?
Sorry?
I saw one.
Oh, yes, I can see that now.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, Gaurav. I'm curious to know, how does one distinguish between landing up a question that is leading the person into his past and asking fact-based question that leads to further clarifications? Thank you so much for asking this, Leela. So I'm curious to know, how does one distinguish between landing up a question that is leading to the past, into his past, leading the person to the past, and asking fact-based question leads to the further clarification? A great question. In fact, does that mean that we never get into the past? Absolutely not. We do get into the past as well. That is one clarity that I would like to share with everyone. And I'm going to share with you when we get to the past. The second one is fact-based questions and the past-based question. Past-based question is, and that is a distinction as far as the therapy and counseling is concerned and coaching is concerned. We don't get into the past. They tell me more about that, what happened and how were you treated and what happened. So we don't actually unravel the wounds of the past. When we are talking about the simple factual questions could be, hey, so for how long you've been thinking about this? For how long you've been thinking that you should actually start something new for yourself, or you need to take responsibility? These are fact-based questions. We don't get into the past where the problem lies. We definitely get into the past at times when we said, could you remember a time when you performed really well as a professional, or when you could really manage to perform at your best, or when you were in the best of your shape, or could you remember a time when you wanted something really badly and you could achieve that? Now, if you remember, I'm assuming most of you would be able to remember that, because we all have done value-based self-image. So if you look at value-based self-image, there we are going in the past and we are saying, could you remember a time when you were at your best in terms of creativity. Now, go back to that and imagine yourself in that space. What do you notice there? What it means is that we are actually touching those corners where people are looking forward to getting back into that not only the knowing space, into the doing space and to the being space as well. So these are the three spaces where you get into when we get into the past. We don't get into the past where the problem lies. I hope it answers.
Gaurav?
Yes.
Yeah.
But so would it be okay if I can just take another question and then I'll open it for you? There's another question that I missed it. Sorry. Just give me a moment. It says Indian executives and HR professionals often expect a coach to give input. According to you, what is the most effective way to prepare them for the fact that you are going to facilitate, not provide input? Anita, great question, and I'm sure all of us are struggling with that. What we've been taught is that a coach does not provide a solution. However, when you go out and play the real match, the opponent is asking for a solution from you. He is or she is expecting an input from you. So one of the way I handle it is I very clearly in the very initial phase itself that I set the expectations right. And once the expectations are right, even when the other person comes back, I said, I'm really sorry, but I don't know if you were at my place or if you could give me a solution around that, how are you going to handle that? Now, I know it's easy said than done, but once you are playing the match for yourself, it's a very different game altogether. That is one. The second one is the way I handle these kind of questions is, one is I say that, okay, right now I'm holding the coaching position, so I can only ask you a question. I can hold the space for you. And how about you actually playing with that? And once you're not getting the answer from anyone, what's happening to you? And that opens up the space for the other person to explore. Or if something, let's say I already know about that, if there's something which is a technical solution that I can provide, then what I do is I wear a different hat altogether. I said, okay, let me just take my hat off. I'm going to share with you what I already know, and that is not as a coach, but as a consultant or a friend, as an advisor. This is what you may want to do. If somebody comes to me and they said, Gaurav, I'm looking forward to pick up a new laptop for myself, and I'm not going to hold the coaching position here. I'm saying, okay, these are the different ways you can go and order for your laptop. Or if there's some application that I have in my laptop, I share, well, this is the application you may want to use, and it's really good. I'm not going to say, okay, from where can you find that application? I might this application from Google. Okay, so what about Google? I would like to explore. I would like to spend some time on Google. That doesn't work. Why? Because this is a technical solution. I already have that, and I gave the input. I don't know if it helps, but this is what I do. Anyone else who does something else, who's doing something different to deal with people when people ask you a solution? So one is, so an answer from Anita is, what works for me is setting up a partnership in terms of we are going to explore. Absolutely. This is an emergent process and solution will emerge. Yes, exactly. This is what I do. So yeah, I second with Anita's thought. Anyone else who would like to share?
I think it becomes a very empowering process when we go back to the context setting of what coaching is all about. And also during that conversation, when it comes up again, to look at what may be the possibilities and how it would make a difference to him or her to get an answer by himself or herself. And therefore the co-creation process. To emphasize on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Lata. And also one point that you may want to explore is that even when the other person is asking, what inside me is getting pressure? Why there's somebody inside me who's getting pressurized? That's a new exploration for me as a coach as well. Because if I'm getting pressurized just because somebody is asking a question, there's something that I need to resolve within myself. Because let's say if I come to you and I say, I would like to learn flying a plane, and I'm assuming that you don't know how to fly a plane. How are you going to handle this conversation? Vis-a-vis, if I tell you that I would like to learn PMS system, how to hold assessments, and I know you're a master, Anita, on that. then how are you going to handle that conversation? They are two different conversations, and it will definitely tell you something about yourself as a coach. And once that shifts, the kind of question that you're attracting, even that would shift. So these are my 2 cents.
Gaurav, I have a small point here. Hello.
Please go ahead, sir.
When we talk of an intake session and forming an agreement before a coaching session or the coaching process, don't we actually talk about what we are supposed to do as a coach? So to a large extent, this confusion or clarity, if I may say, is already there. It's only when we are into a coaching session and because of some confusion or barrier, the coachee or the client suddenly gets into that advice asking mode. So once our intake session has been okay, once our agreement has been okay, then in the meantime, like you rightly said, I like the idea of removing the hat for a moment. It's like the yellow curtain.
Yeah.
Okay, removing the hat for a moment, and or reminding, like Anita also said, that we will get through the process and emerge with a solution together.
Precisely.
So I think it's not a well, I have not experienced so much of coaching, but I feel confident that it may not in the long run be such a problem unless we haven't done our intake session properly. Unless at the beginning it hasn't been clarified that what as a coach I am supposed to do.
With you on that, sir.
Right, thank you.
So the expectation setting is really important. It is like mandate. It's like really important. Setting the expectation. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to avoid. This is what is expected from you as a client. And this is what is expected from me as a person, as a coach.
Right.
This is what you can expect from the coaching relationship.
Yeah.
This is in the purview. This is in the border of coaching. And it's not in the purview of coaching. You would not go to a doctor and say, you know what, I would like to learn hockey. Please give me inputs. Because the expectation setting is so well clear and the boundaries are so well settled and set in the conversations. Yeah.
Akshay, this side, Gaurav.
Please go ahead, Akshay. Akshay, would it be okay? Is it an input or a question?
So I'm just sharing a challenge on the same piece.
Yeah. So because Varsha had a query, would it be okay if I can take your query post Varsha's?
I will wait.
Yeah, thank you. Varsha, over to you.
So Gaurav, I had an input, not really a question, so I can wait if you want me to.
No, you can share that. Though.
Yeah. So so this is with reference to the question raised earlier about taking the coaching into the past, and you talked about the VBSI and how you get them to mentally visualize, right? So it's in that context. The point is then as a coach, when we are, I think if we are a little conscious to ask questions which are facts, that is, we are asking the coachee to recollect facts from the past. I think that one thing has helped me when I, to make sure they're not getting into the drama bit, right? That is one. Two, in case, so it is difficult for the coaching not to get into the emotion. So maybe at that point, what we can say, okay, what are you feeling? What were you feeling? And that's it. And then it's important for us to draw them out from the emotion and get them back to the logic. Because sometimes it's natural for them to get to the emotional state, and it has happened with me quite sometimes. Initially, I used to struggle with that. However, if you can ask fact questions, they do come out. And over a period of time, they get used to this. And I have seen that, later on in the conversations, if something like this happens, they'll say, okay, I'm getting into a wrong space. Okay, I need to focus on the facts. So I've had coaches themselves become aware and say this. So it works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's an input, a very relevant input for Leela. Thank you, Varsha, for sharing. Akshay, over to you.
Can I say something? Hello, can I say something? Are you hearing me?
Who's there, sir?
I am Zeb.
Oh, Zeb, please go ahead. So good to hear you.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of the things that we're talking about. For example, when you gave the example of going to a doctor to teach hockey, I was just wondering, do people come to coaches, I mean, to coach, to teach them coaching, or to handle, I mean, to help them look at an issue? And when we say we don't, those going to the past, I don't think it's like asking question of stories of the past. But if open-ended statements can make a person look back and trace. Because what I see here is that somewhere we put them at the logical thing, try to be very logical about it, like when was the first time you were, I mean, when was it that you were at your best? And then beyond that, don't see what is it about you that makes you to be at your best at situations like this, which I'm sure is something that has started from somewhere. So when we say we want to the same level where we are now, so I'm just getting a little confused that what is the role of a coach? Is it to provide solution or to listen out or to help a person? Because I also see that when questions are asked to me, like what inputs, what can you give? I know that I don't know your situation and I don't have an answer. But is there a way I can be with you to help you to find the answer to yourself? And for me, this is through probing questions or interventions that will make you to go a little deeper, which I think we are trying to avoid here.
Yeah. So Zeb, what is the question? I understood what you do right now. You don't provide solution and you probe.
I was not asking a question. I was just talking in terms of,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very relevant, very relevant input, Zeb, in fact. By the way, Zeb is another veteran in the space of leadership development. It's such an honor for us, Zeb, to have you on this call. Zeb is another veteran. He's been in the space of learning and development for I don't know how many years of time. And it was an honor for me to have him in the session last year, if I'm not mistaken, in Bangalore.
Yeah.
It was a sheer learning for me.
And you refuse to have me again. That's the point.
Thank you, Zeb. Thank you so much.
Right.
We do ask questions. We don't give a solution. And that's how it goes. Anita says, agree. Also, I find that sometimes the past helps a coachee find his or her future steps. And if that's where the coachee wants to go, he knows best. Yes. Akshay, over to you, my friend. My apologies. Akshay, you there?
Sorry, it was not a question, neither a challenge. I think, Gaurav, my worry is that while dealing with HR professionals, and the question was, what is the best way to tackle with them? I think my current realization and challenge is to control my own urge of not giving advice. If a subject is like PMS and something that you know, and the example that you quoted, I am at a stage where my bigger worry is to how to control my own urge of not giving an advice rather than, because it is easier to get into a conversation with an HR professional and set the context very, very clearly about what to expect from coaching so that it doesn't recur again. But the bigger worry is how to control that urge and what is the best method that we can use to start talking to ourselves, that because I realize that though the intent was there right at the start of the conversation, but during the conversation I ended up giving some so like you quoted an example that it was a technical question and something that you have done in the past. It is so easy to end up sharing one statement or two statements or the other. So my realization is that my bigger challenge is to control my own urge. It is easier to tackle a conversation with an HR professional and tell him or her that what to expect from coaching.
I understand. And would it be okay if I can give you what I do and that might help you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for that, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you send. So the office address that where we sit is like 137 first floor, Star Towers, Gurgaon. What you need to do is send at least 5 kgs of chocolates. And once it reaches at our office, you will get cured.
Sure.
Yeah.
So pizza is chocolate.
No, only chocolates. Only chocolates. I'm off pizzas these days. Great. So thank you so much. Akshay, this is a journey, my friend. As I mentioned, doing coaching is the easiest of all. I've not to impress you, but to impress upon the point that I've taught coaching in less than 3 days. People are able to do coaching in 3 days. Becoming a coach is a journey. It's a lethal journey. It's a killing journey. You cry every second day because you realize that how much you don't know about coaching, how much you don't know about yourself. Forget about coaching people. And it's a good realization. That's where you are. As my friend Lata says, she says, just be. I never understood what.
Very well, sir. Very well.
When you don't
Very
understand
well,
anything,
sir.
she says, just be. I said, okay, just be.
Very well, sir. Very well, sir. One of the moments that I failed, and I'm sorry, I'm taking an extra minute. Once I was when I was going through the 4-day session, and we were hearing you saying fail better, and fail again. At that time, I came back home. I was talking to my 5-year-old son. We always get into some conversation. So I was at a stage where we were practicing some question, and I one day, without even building a rapport, stayed. So what do you want to discuss today? And listening to that question, my son's response was, "What do you want to discuss today?"
Yeah. So that's what Sir John Whitmore said. Just observe a small child and
Correct.
listen to the way he asks
Correct.
questions. So great.
And the way he said, "What do you want to discuss today?"
All right, let's move on and let's talk about. So once we have the rapport in place, we move on and we set the contract in place. We are not going to spend a lot of time on the contracting, on outcome frame. I'll just take you through that, and I'll take we'll take a quick halt at creating an experience, because that is important. And anyways, we'll be creating more webinars for all of us. So let's talk about the contract. Now, what is the importance of contract is, I'm sure you all would have experienced, if the contract is not in place, the tendency is that you would fall flat on your face. And all the times when I've not had a well-structured contract, I've fallen flat on my face. I could not even move on in the coaching conversation, because I realized that how without a contract, I'm like a wandering child looking at every single house and thinking that this is the house that I might want to have in my life. This is the car that I would like to have in my life. This is the kind of bike that I would like to have in my life, without realizing that only if I can set the contract in place, it would help both the coachee and the coach to move in the direction where the conversation should move. I think that was missing. If that is missing, the contract will not move in the right direction. So that is the that is the reason why we ask the very simple question: what do you really want? Another question that makes a lot of difference is where we talk about as in a contract, there are certain characteristics that we need to take care of. One such is that we set the expectation in place, and we say, okay, now we have got 40 minutes in our hand. What is it that you would like to talk about in today's conversation? What it does is, at the unconscious level, it gives a structure to the other person, the person who's sitting on the coachee's position. It gives a structure to that person that, okay, I've got only 40 minutes in my hand. I cannot move in all directions. And if I were to set my internal mind clock so that I can get to a point where I want to reach, a person starts unconsciously starts moving in that direction. So that's where we say that we have got 40 minutes in our hand. What's the best expectation for us? And this is the direction that I would like to get into for everyone. So that is where we talk about the contracting part. And in the contracting part, the second point that we say is that a contract has to be positively stated. As I mentioned many times to most of the people on this call, that most of the time people might come to you and will tell you that what they don't want in their life. He will tell you, she will tell you that I don't want this color or that color. I don't want this car or that car. I don't want this qualification or that qualification. I don't want to get into this space or that space. The question is, the technique is to use the flipping question. And we say, okay, in case you don't want this, what do you want instead? So we ask a flipping question. That is one of the ways that would help you to flip the mindset of the other person. And rather than looking at this, What is it that you're looking forward to instead? You switch it off, you flip it off, and you move on to a very different mindset altogether. That is one. The second one is, it should be in control of the other person. If somebody is coming to you and saying that, you know what, I want my team members to perform really well, or I want husband to quit smoking, I want my wife to stop shopping. By the way, there are areas that you can't do anything about that. Even if the person is coming that, if a lady is coming to you and saying that, okay, I would like to stop shopping, and the husband is also coming that I want my wife to stop shopping, you can't do anything. There are certain things coaching does not work. I hope you would have experienced that. Now, before I further take a pause, Lata is going to pick me left, right, center. She is a socialist activist in the space of females. Yeah, look at Leela. Leela is going to join Lata's gang. It's not fair. Leela is saying, I know. Gaurav, you are in trouble. Major gender stereotyping. Absolutely, yes. I've been in this space for many, many years. And trust me, I love women more than men. Anita, don't you know I'm so much in love with you? What stereotyping? Women are, of course, the most beautiful creature created by God. Coming back to the point where we are talking about the contracting, where we say, okay, so it's in control of the other person. What we say is, okay, considering this, how much is it in your control? What is it that you can influence altogether? And that is where we move on. That is where you move on, and then you keep on asking questions, and then you say, okay, if this is what it's in your control, or if this is something that you can influence. So you keep on asking questions so that we create more awareness in the mind of the other person. How much is it in your control? How much you can actually influence this? And that is the third one. The fourth one is what we talk about is the SMART one. So it should be SMART, SMART. So there are two R's. I'll just quickly go through that because SMART we already know. S stands for specific, measurable, achievable. One R stands for realist. The other R stands for relevant, and T stands for time bound. That is where I'll take a little bit. I'll spend more time on the realistic part and the relevance part. Relevance according to whom, and realist according to whom. There are instances I've had the honor of coaching people who are like at the best in terms of their energy levels, in terms of their achievement, in terms of what they have done in their life, what they're looking forward to. I was in a conversation with somebody where this person is saying that so this person stays in Chennai, where he stays where he said, and this I'm talking about 5-6 years back, he said, I would like to talk about where I can actually create a better world for all the orphanage, all the orphan children in the world, right? So where he's actually was willing to look at a huge task for himself. In my mind, I was thinking that how is it possible? I started doubting that person, but that reminded me what Marilyn said: realist according to whom, relevant according to whom. So that is where we need to take a pause and we need to relook at the basic principles. We go back to the basic principles of coaching, and we say, okay, people are okay. People make the best possible choice. People have all the resources within. Change is inevitable. Every behavior has a positive intention, and people make the best possible choices, as I mentioned. So we go back to the basics before we move on. And the last one is ecological. Now, ecological is really important because that opens up new sources of inspiration for the other person. When you say, okay, who are the people who are going to get benefit? Who are you becoming in this journey? How are you going to impact the people around you? And who are your stakeholders that would get impacted? Few of you would have experienced, there's another term that we talk about is the stakeholder management in the coaching part, and where we say, okay, who are the stakeholders who will get impacted? Who are the stakeholders of your stakeholders that would get impacted? And that's how we create the cascading impact. And it makes a lot of difference because in that case, the other person wakes up looking at the kind of impact that he can create in his life by only working on the area that you have right now. Going back to the same example that I was talking about, where this person said that I would like to take care of my health, and health means fitness, and fitness means smartness, and smartness means I will be able to take care of myself. And when I said, okay, who all would get impacted there? He said, it would help me to take care of my family as well. And then I will be happy. Now, this is what the power of ecological is. Otherwise, he would only look at himself without realizing that how a small act that you're doing right now, it's going to have an impact. It's going to have a huge impact on everything that you are doing. So that,
question.
Yes.
Specifically in the outcome frame.
Yeah.
If your coachee brings a problem which is not in their control.
Yeah.
For example, I would like my spouse to stop smoking or something which is not there. Could you help and share on how to bring the control and the onus back into the coachee and not to a third party?
One is you cannot do much about that in that case, because in case you're saying that I would want my spouse to stop smoking, you can't do much about that because that's not in his control. You can definitely ask, what do you think? How can you influence that? Or you can ask, what role are you playing in that? And how are you willing to go about that? Does it help, Siddharth?
Sure, Gaurav. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to speak to you on that, because that's what I do. Because anything that it's not in the control of the other person, you cannot do much about that. You can only influence that. This is like, saying that I understand that this friend of mine, he's not doing his job well, and he's not serious about his profession, or what is it I can do? You can't do much about that. You can only influence to some extent. There is one more question. It says, hi Gaurav, if somebody gets into a state which is not in client's control and he or she feels to share only his or her feeling in between the sessions, so what is the way to take him or her out of that? Possibly, Jyoti, I didn't get the question. What I got the question is, yeah, even Akshay's input is, what role are you playing in that? What is your control in terms of expected outcome? Definitely yes, Akshay. The question is, if somebody gets into a state which is not in client's control, okay, and he feels to share only his or her feeling in between the sessions, so what is the way to take him or out of that? You just listen at times. There are coaching sessions, and the more and more coaching sessions that I'm doing now, I realize that once I'm able to give a patient listening to my coachee, 50% of the work is already done. And then could be a possibility that he might come up with an insight for herself that, anyways, I don't think that I can do much about that. And what I'm aware of, it's definitely impacting me as a person. So now the coaching conversation moves from how he should or she should not smoke, how my partner should not smoke, to how it does not impact me. So there are two different conversations altogether. You can't do much about the first one, that if my spouse smokes, how can he or she stop smoking? However, that impacts me, that can definitely, you can do something about that, because it's something related to your own state, and you can definitely dwell deeper into that and have a conversation. I hope, Jyoti, it helps. The next question is from Jyoti. I know got missed. If someone gets into a state which is not in client's control, I think that I've addressed that. What are the areas in which you can support him or her for the accomplishments? So area of accomplishment that you can, in all the different dimensions of a human being, whether it's finances, it's health, it's social health, it's your own connection with in your relationship, it's your career, it's your work, it's your hobbies. So if my understanding is right, is that what you were asking, Akshay? So this is the answer. Moving on, I know we have got only 13 minutes left now.
I just have one small question.
Yeah, please go ahead. Zeb.
I just wanted to, when we're talking about, I'm just wondering, what is the role of empathy in coaching?
What is the role of empathy?
Empathy.
So I'll open it for other people to address that. Who would like to address? What is the role of empathy? Interestingly, 3 days back, I was leading a program and somebody asked me the same question. So thank you for asking this. Let's hear from others' views as well. Let's hear from, who are the people? Yeah, Sindhu, please go ahead.
Well, for me, empathy is very important. One, It also helps in the rapport building stage when you're understanding where the coachee is coming from, what is he or she saying. And when you're actually creating an experience in the arrow stages, creating an experience and trying to understand what the coach really wants and how he or she is feeling, having empathy actually helps there. You stay more connected, and you really tend to get more curious and ask the right questions that helps the coachee the way they want to.
Oh, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to make a quick point, Gaurav. Just in case I want to clarify something. First of all, empathy, yes, that is very important as far as rapport is concerned. It helps the coaching relationship. I agree with Sandhu. As far as the question of something being out of control, the example that was given that I want my spouse to stop smoking and examples like that, isn't it important that suppose somebody says, I want somebody to do something, before we get into whether she or he has control over it or not, the fundamental why question, why she or he wants to do that, is very important. Because instead of going into her control or his control over the other person, if we ask that person why, we might actually that person might come out with something else which is so important that the other person's habit is only aggravating. So this person, rather than wanting the other person to give up a habit, is actually very much concerned about the reaction or response this person has. Like getting angry, getting upset. So many a times asking the why behind such a question may be vital, because the coachee or the client may actually come out with something critically important. Be helped by proper coaching.
Yeah.
This is my take, that rather than first straight away going into the control point, if we can delve on the why part, which as a student of coaching, I have learned from all of you that getting into the why part is very important. So here also that might help.
Yeah. Indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Sab, for sharing. We have some other views as well. Beautiful views coming from Neetu. She says, empathy helps a person to find solutions to on his or her own, and feels accepted, and takes away the immediate hurt and provides support when most required. Akshay says, as long as we don't go away from coach position in that process, empathy is important. With you on that, I think my personal take is empathy is all about being there for the other person and listening, rather than getting sucked into the conversation and going the spiral down mode. As long as we don't go away from the coach position in that process, empathy is important. Anita says, it's a complex and nuanced point. I try and aim for implicit empathy within the rapport and an openness, which is non-judgmental, about specific issues and challenges. Fine line between empathizing and agreeing. It's a coach learning. Definitely, yes. As I mentioned, that empathizing does not mean that you start crying. Of course, you feel that, and yet you stay away from that. So Zed, if you ask my genuine response to that, I know I might sound stupid in saying that, and yet I will say that there's nothing called empathy. That's my personal take. I could be wrong as well. Not to trigger any kind of argument here, I'm just sharing my response here. Because empathy is, I'm yet to understand, I'm yet to feel what the other person is feeling ever in my life. Because only he knows or she knows the pain that he is going through. Because as much as I may try to be with that person, I would not be able to feel the loss of somebody very important in his life. I have gone through some pain in my life in last 10, 12, 15 years. As much as my mom and dad tried to understand that, I don't think that they understood that. I've seen the color of my dad's hair moving from black to gray during that sad episode of my life. But I don't think that he understood that. he was there with me. He took tension for that. The one thing that I've learned as a coach in last over a decade is, how can you have detached curiosity? You be with that person when the need is. That's what my take is. Let's hear from more uh, from other people. Empathy is one thing that covers both listening and keeping you in the coach position, including rapport. Dance is so much better when empathy prevails. Yes, I agree with you, Gaurav. Hey, thank you, Akshay. I'll give you extra discount next time. I can try to ask to best relate to the other person. His pain is not my pain. Empathy has to exist with detachment. Absolutely, yes. Anupama, thank you so much for bringing that. I tell the word is detached curiosity. Attaining that stage is a journey in itself. Empathy does not mean understanding. It just helps another person feel comfortable in someone's response. Great, guys. Thank you so much.
Sorry, but let me say something since the question came from me. I was not actually asking for the definition of empathy. I was only looking at empathy in coaching as saying that listening to me does not mean that you agree with me, but I know you are listening. That is my definition of empathy in this sense.
With you on that, sir. I mean, I think that's what most of us are talking about. That, so it definitely resonates with our own.
No, but what words like detachment, no? Those detachment, all those type of words, I think they have different connotations. When we walk, I have to be detached, though I have to empathize and I'm detached. So I think those things don't
It
match.
does not resonate with you.
Yeah. I mean, not resonate. I'm not very sure that it matches. You know, in the unconscious mind, on the thing, I am detached, but I also want to empathize, be with that person. So detachment and attachment, I don't think that they coexist. Rather, I mean, they coexist, but they don't merge. That's where I'm coming from.
Great. I think this is a good conversation. We can have a dedicated webinar only on that. And in fact, that is one of the points that I've written. Role of empathy in the coaching. That's the only one sentence that I've written in this webinar. So Zed, thank you so much. As I mentioned, always a great learning from having you in the session. Julian said, so Anupama says, I also feel empathy is a natural state of our being. Yes. Empathy is the capacity to place oneself in another's position. You will never fully feel what he or she feels. Yes, Julian, thank you so much. I personally, I believe that I cannot feel 100% what the other person is going through. His pain, his sorrows, his pleasures, his happiness. That is in his DNA, whatever he's experiencing. And I might not be able to experience 100% what he or she is feeling. We are, Nitu, we are on the same page. So we all are on the same page. Considering now we've got only 4 minutes, I'm going to quickly come to a conclusion. I'm sorry, we could not even complete the arrow model. However, I feel that's a good start for the first webinar that we had, where we had so many people on the call. So let's spend the next 4 minutes gathering and listening to what are your key takeaways. If you can just share one of your key takeaways, either you may want to type or you may want to share. In case you type, I'll read it for all of us. In case you want to share, you're most welcome. Please go ahead and share. I'll put myself on mute. It says, listen first and wait. Wait stands for why am I talking? Detached curiosity. Good to revisit the fundamentals. We have the role of empathy in coaching. Backtracking is an evidence procedure. Learning from each other is powerful. Have a childlike curiosity. Great to be here. A small detailing to rapport building. Anyone else who would like to share? What are your, just one sentence? You may want to speak as well. We would love to listen to you.
I loved being here, though you didn't invite me. Actually, I think Malik is the person who told me about it. I was not aware of this session, but I'm happy that I was able to attend.
Zeb, my sincere apologies. Next time, and this is a learning for us as well. That's so how can we reach out to all our graduates from the past and make sure that they come. I don't know how it got missed.
Yeah, but it's fine. I'm happy I was able to attend, and I need to talk to you. I don't know whether now, but I need to have a talk with you. But not. Let's finish this.
Yes, Zeb. Thank you so much. How you sit, how you talk, and how your pitch and your tonality, learning, and all the time from everyone. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. It's been great. A learning session today also in the continuing journey that I am enjoying. See you in the next module very soon. And thanks everybody out there on the webinar, because everybody is speaking and sharing has increased my learning. So I owe a thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one of the points is, can each one of you mention difficult situation they have faced? Definitely, Julian, we would have one such webinar as well very soon. And now this is giving us more input on the theme on which we can have webinar, and we definitely will have more webinars around that. Thank you, Julian and Akshay. Thanks, Gaurav, team who organized this. Thank you so much, Akshay. Curiosity stood out for me the most. Thanks all for contributing. For me also, I think curiosity stood out for me. Very, very curious to know more about what's happening in your life. Look forward to interact with you one-on-one. And in case you think that we can be of any assistance to you, please feel free to give me a call, or any of my team members, either Preeti, Shalini, Saurav, Surbhi. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll make a sincere attempt to support you in your coaching journey. Thank you so much. Look forward to have you in the next webinar. Shalini will reach out to you, or Preeti would reach out to you. We'll make an attempt to have a webinar every month. So yes, Shalini, over to you.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much for the lovely participation, because it was a great learning for us as well. At the same time, many concepts get uncovered and unreached during our learnings, but at this kind of a platform, we get to touch upon many different aspects of coaching. So look forward for your further participation as well. As Gaurav mentioned, that we're going to have these webinars every month. So our focus is mainly on the core competencies and the experiences of each one of us on our coaching journey. Thank you so much.
And once may I request all of you to switch on your video so that we can see each other's face as well. Hey, this is so great. Awesome. We are yet to see Parul, Malik, Preeti, Gitanjali, Sophia, Anita, Kalpana, Ajay. It's so good to have Sardarji. Hey, Paras is also here. How could I miss you, Paras? Hi, man. Hey, Kalpana is also here. So good to see so many faces. Let's wait for Sophia, Jyoti, Parul.
Hi, Gaurav.
It's so good to see so many faces. Hey, Zeb, so good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much, sir. So, all right. Thank you so much. See you all soon. Take care. Hugs to you. Love you. And thank you so much once again for joining on the webinar. Good having all of you.